Welcome back to Anatomy Chapter 4. This will be video 5 where we conclude our discussion of the different types of epithelial tissue. So in the previous video, we looked at the 4 types of simple. Now we're going to look at the stratified types. So our first type is stratified squamous. So with this one, we have multiple layers. And the basal end of the layers, they are thicker cells. And towards the apical end, they are thinner or flatter. So that's why this is called stratified squamous. So they're a little bit thicker, and then as we get and we have more and more multiple layers, they thin out a little bit. These are usually used for protection and as a barrier. So the best place or the best example is our epidermis. And we'll be looking at this more in our next chapter. But we have stratified squamous that forms our outermost layer of the skin. And that outermost layer, well, it's there to help protect things and provide a barrier for water loss. So we'll take a deeper look at this next chapter. Stratified cuboidal is multiple layers of cubes. So it basically looks like little blocks stacked upon one another. And these are mainly for secretion and absorption. So here we have sweat and our salivary glands that produce saliva. Both of these are secreting a lot of materials. So we produce about 2 quarts of saliva a day. So that's a half gallon, which is a good amount if we think about it. Most of it we swallow, and it just gets recycled in our body. Stratified columnar, we have multiple layers. They start cube-like, then to columns. So they might have a couple layers that look like cuboidal, but then the top couple start to stretch out a little bit and look more columnar. So this is stratified columnar, and these are often ciliated. So you see with columnar, either simple or stratified, and pseudostratified, those are the ones that are typically ciliated. These are protection and secretion. And I'm going to put movement in parentheses because if they're ciliated, they are. So here we have the mammary glands. And we have the larynx, which is our throat. The last one is transitional. And again, transitional means it transitions or changes shape. So it goes from a cube shape to a flattened shape. So we have stretching. So these basically, if we looked at or thought of this like a balloon, as stuff fills in it, it ends up stretching and it changes the shape of the cell because it's being stretched. So they are attached to other things, other cells, so we end up stretching. So their function basically is to stretch. That's what they do. And the best example here is the urinary bladder. The urinary bladder is about the shape, when it's empty, is about the size of a walnut, but it can stretch as urine is being produced and it fills it. And we all know what happens when it is filled. We have the urge to go to the bathroom and void our bladder. But Also, the urethra and ureters contain some transitional, so they can stretch a little bit. So those are the 8 types of epithelial tissue.